The vector PQ has the initial point at -5, -6. So, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. If you haven't dealt with vectors too much, they feel similar to points. It's like you have an x and a y point, but we usually don't do this. We don't just plot a point here. We usually draw an arrow from the origin to that point, because vectors have both direction and magnitude. Oh, sorry, but this is a point, so we can just draw a dot. I was getting ahead of myself. This has point -5, -6. But this is a vector. 12, 9. That means the change in x is 12. The positional vector is talking about the change. So the change in x is 12, and the change in y is 9. So it means from this point, we're supposed to go 12 units up and 9 units to the right, because they're both positive. So there's just a rough sketch. So basically what we need to do to find out the terminal point, where this vector ends, where this arrow ends, is we just need to... Q is a point, sorry. We need to take the position of point P and add the change in x. And then the change in y. So Q is going to terminate, is going to be the terminal point, so it's at 7, 3. That's what goes in here. So 7 on the x, 3 on the y. So I just made a rough sketch when I did. This is probably more realistic of what that vector looks like. Okay, but really you just need to know the final point. Yeah, so that part I was drawing at the beginning, that doesn't apply for point P because it's a point. That can be just a dot. Wasn't looking too closely at the notation. But the positional vector, when it's drawn with those bracket type things, it's kind of like x and y coordinates, but it's also talking about a change in position. So that you're moving 12 units in the positive x direction and 9 units in the positive y direction. So that's why we added 12 and added 9 to our coordinates P to find out where that vector terminates. So we're given 2 points. We're supposed to determine the vector between the 2 points. And the vector starts with point P and ends at point Q. We read it left to right, so we need to keep that in mind. They presented Q first, but it actually starts at P. So -3 on the x, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the y. There's point P. That's our origin. And then -5, -4. There's Q. So the vector looks like this. The arrow is pointing towards Q. So the vector is talking about both the direction and the magnitude. Basically what you want to do to create that vector that they're talking about is describe the change in y and the change in x. Actually x comes first though. So we start at -3 in the x. We back up 2 places. So -2 is our change in y and x. I don't know why I'm doing that y first. And then the changes in y, we start at 7, we go down to -4, so we went down 7 and then down an additional 4 points. We went down, which is the negative direction, we went down 11 points. So that's the position vector PQ, -2, -11.